What's up? Today we're gonna take a look at the most common beginner mistakes in an opening and how you can take advantage of them. Sometimes you're facing an amateur player and you gotta do something about that. Okay, let's start with some really basic stuff, and after that we'll gradually go to more advanced traps, okay? So the first one, what if your opponent is just trying to very directly checkmate you with the scholar's checkmate? So first of all, they go queen h5, and here you gotta be careful because they're also attacking your pawn on e5. Therefore, normally black would protect it. After that, white goes bishop to c4, this time threatening queen takes f7 checkmate. And you go pawn to g6, they play queen f3 to renew the same threat of queen takes f7. Therefore, you gotta be careful one more time, playing knight to f6. And if your opponent is really insistent, they may play pawn to g4. And again, the intent here is fairly obvious. Since your knight is currently blocking the way of the white's queen, they want to push the pawn forward to g5, drive your knight away, and after that, deliver the checkmate on the f7 square. Again, some of your beginner-level opponents will do just that, aiming for the straightforward checkmate. What should you do in this case? Well, there is a very straightforward and powerful refutation. First of all, you go knight to d4, attacking the queen. This also simultaneously attacks the pawn on c2, and therefore white has to move their queen backwards to d1. And after that, it's important to continue playing aggressively, because in some games black just develops their pieces normally, such as bishop g7, and after that is just a standard game of chess. But instead, you can and should take advantage of the white's mistake. And so you can play pawn to d5, attacking the bishop, and after they recapture, this time you capture the pawn on g4, threatening the queen, and after they block the way of your bishop with the knight, let's say, then there is again a nice way for you to finish the game right here. You just go knight f3 check, king f1, and all of a sudden the white's king is checkmated. The next trap that you can set to a less experienced opponent is more advanced. And it's kinda known, but it never gets old, as people keep falling right into this trap. In this particular game that I'm showing to you right now, it's a blitz game between Kamsky and Krasikov, and the white player Kamsky, if that is really the original, so to say, and Kamsky, the former US champion, if he really fell into this trap, that it is just crazy. And the move here is, first of all, you gotta make your best poker face here, and after some hesitation, play the move knight to d4, pretending like you're just an amateur who is just playing some random moves. And even though, again, the trap is kinda known, it seems to me, but people just keep falling into it. Let me show you the statistics. Here in the right corner, you can see the statistics of games played after this position, and here you can see that the second most played move with tens of thousands of people playing it is knight takes e5, which is almost losing. Well, not literally, but it's close to losing, and let me show you how you can take advantage of it. It's really tempting for white to capture the pawn because not only it wins material, but also it creates this seemingly powerful threat to the black's f7 pawn. However, the trap here is that you can actually counterattack with the move queen to g5 with a double attack to the white's knight as well as the pawn on g2. What can white do now? In case they capture the pawn by the bishop, then after king to e7, you can see that a lot of the white's pieces and pawns are hanging here, and it's hard for white to save his material because almost inevitably you'll start capturing something on the next move. And therefore, it's probably not what white will do here. And if they capture with a knight, which looks really tempting as it attacks two valuable pieces of black, the queen and the rook, then you once again counter blow with a double attack just as well. It's interesting how both players keep using this double attack tactical motif. By the way, if you want to also practice this thing more, you may check out another lesson, 2 most important tactics you should know. I'll link it below and maybe we'll show it on the screen so that you can see and practice what are the 2 most common chess tactics, and you can just learn this quick lesson and learn this thing. All right, so right here, queen is attacking the rook, therefore it has to retreat. And now you capture the pawn on e4, white needs to cover the king, and now when it looks that the white's king is totally safe and protected by a whole bunch of pieces, all of a sudden there is a smothered checkmate taking advantage of the pin. And the next trap is going to be really interesting because a lot of players use it, even advanced players up to the grandmaster level. When you're playing white and you play the first standard moves, pawn to e4, knight to f3, they can surprise you by playing pawn to d5. And even though this move is not the mainstream line here, it's actually not that bad, and it's fairly dangerous for white, as there are a lot of pitfalls that you gotta be aware of. First of all, let me show you how they are trying to trick you, so that after that we can figure out how you can counter-trick them. I don't know if such a word exists, counter-trick, but you got the point. Okay, so if you just play the most natural moves, you capture the pawn, they play pawn to e4. Now it's already a little bit uncomfortable for you, because obviously you don't want to move the knight backwards to its original square, as they may think that you're just resigning and putting the pieces back to the original positions. And if you play it in the center, then they can, after that, let me try that. After that, they can capture this pawn and also attack your knight once again. It doesn't look good for white. And therefore, instead of this, let me take a move back. Very often, white goes queen to e2. And it looks good, because not only you're saving the knight, but you're actually hoping to just win this pawn. After that, they go knight f6 to protect it. White plays d3, still trying to capture the pawn. They play queen takes d5 to protect it. White goes knight c3 to attack the queen. Black goes bishop b4, pinning the knight. Therefore, the black's queen currently cannot be captured. White goes bishop d2, black trades the bishops, and then they castle. And here, white may play bishop takes f6, because again, it just looks so natural to do that. And white is obviously hoping for black to recapture, and white finally can win the pawn here on e4, getting a really good position. But the trick here is that at this point, I'm just taking a move back. Instead of recapturing the bishop, black would instead capture the knight firstly. And with the help of this intermediate move, they can actually win this knight. Because on the next move, let's say if we would just continue here the line and trade off everything, at the end they can get back the bishop, but now they're a piece up. They have an extra knight, and therefore it's time for white to resign. So it's just one of the ways for black to play, but it anyway shows you how dangerous this opening can be. And if you just play the most natural moves all the time, you can all of a sudden lose right away. Now, let me show you what you should do instead. Now let's get back to this position and see what white should play instead. Instead of capturing the pawn here, which we analyzed previously, you can capture the pawn on e5, and after that, black can recapture onto e4. And here, of course, if you just want a super rock-solid position, you just may move your pawn to d4, and now your position is secure 100%. But it's not very aggressive, you know, you're not really trying to win the game, it's just to secure your position. And if you want to play more aggressively, then bishop c4 is the way to go, because normally, you know, you gotta be getting certain advantage here. Black is still playing a little bit dubious moves, and it makes sense for you to be more aggressive to punish them. Now, what can black do? You're threatening the pawn here 2 times, and it's inconvenient for black to protect it somehow, and therefore the whole idea of black is to try to counterattack by playing queen to g5. It's interesting that we have seen a similar trap from the black side, if you remember, but it was a little bit different position. So in this case, it's actually favorable for white to go into this line. Still, obviously, it's not easy for white to figure out what to do next. The correct move for white here is bishop takes f7 to force the black's king to move. And after the black's king moves, you go pawn to d4. This move attacks the queen, and simultaneously it provides the protection for your central knight. Therefore, the knight cannot be captured, and black will capture the pawn on g2, attacking your rook. Therefore, you go rook to f1. Your opponent will continue their attack, bishop h3. This time, this battery of queen and bishop is trying to get your rook on f1, so you go bishop c4 back, protecting the rook by the bishop, and they take queen takes h2. And at first it may seem like black actually succeed in their attempt to attack you, because now they're going to capture the rook, it cannot escape. And what's going on here? Does it mean that the whole line is bad for white? No, because there is a move which not only saves you, but actually brings you a sudden win. It's the move queen to h5. And in this case, it's a kind of multi-purpose move, because it spins the bishop on h3, therefore the bishop cannot move here, or else they'll lose the queen on h2. But even more importantly, the queen from here threatens to go onto f7 and to checkmate the black's king very soon. And this key move, queen h5, allows white to win the game, and that's how you basically refute the entire line of black. In one of the games, black played pawn on g6, trying to, cover that f7 square, and there are different ways for white to win here, because the black's king is just so weak. But one of the ways is to play queen h4, and after that black goes knight f6, I'd like to ask you to think about this position, and to write it down in the comments below. How would you play here as white? If you're playing this position, it is your move, how would you proceed here? Please think about it, and write it down in the comments below. Also, you may wish to check out my free masterclass, The Best Way to Improve at Chess Instantly, by clicking the link on the screen or down below the video, where I summarize the most efficient ways used by my most successful students to progress in chess. And therefore you can replicate their success and get this shortcut, the most proven, most effective ways to improve your chess, not just with some single opening traps, but in general, how to advance your chess and achieve your chess goals. I'll talk to you soon, and I wish you all the best in your chess battles.